Now, throughout this week, there seems to be more and more disturbing stories and videos of kids bullying kids. Last week, a 13-year-old student from Tamworth was filmed being kicked and punched by a fellow pupil, with others urging her on. The video was put on social media and then was taken off. And just a few days ago, it was reported that an 11-year-old boy from Bradford named Assad took his own life after claims that he was being bullied. Bradford West Labour MP Naz Shah has said that she met with the parents of Assad. She wrote on her Facebook page, this evening, 11-year-old Assad took his own life. Assad had just started his new school recently, and bullying is something that has been mentioned. So we're going to be talking about this tonight, opening up the phone lines to you as well. How can we, as a society, tackle bullying? And what should parents, teachers, the police, and us be doing to keep our kids safe? And what about social media and all of this? How much does that really play a part? Because, sometimes we're viewing these videos, sometimes we're sharing them. Is that not helping the bullies in some way? Or actually, is it exposing a reality? 03453 009956. Jay's texting on this one already. Jay in Dudley and says, "Hi Arshia, I read the sad story about the bullying. Sadly, it's no longer confined to the playground, which was bad enough, but social media makes it worse," says Jay. Let's speak now to Shalina Litt. She's a teacher from Birmingham who's just come back from teaching in Kuwait. Welcome to the programme, Shalina. Hi. Shalina, firstly, just tell me, what is your reaction to this story of this 11-year-old boy who took his own life after claims that he was being bullied?
Obviously, it was heartbreaking when I first read about it. And I think the most heartbreaking thing was the fact that, his mother didn't even know. He hadn't actually spoken to her. And my heart really goes out to her, because the fact that he can be going through this and make such a drastic decision in the space of 3 weeks, we really don't know what he was what pressure he was put under. So really, really heartbreaking.
And obviously, a story like this has affected so many different people in different communities. I've seen so much stuff about this on Twitter, on Facebook. But when it comes to Twitter, Facebook, social media, a lot of these videos are being sort of shared. Do you think that social media plays a part when it comes to bullying?
I think it does, and and I hope that most schools are addressing it in terms of taking responsibility as a society. I really do hope schools are defining to children that bullying isn't just physical. It can be in the means of social media now and other means. And furthermore, that we need to extend this topic. I spoke to local children recently and said, "Have your school addressed bullying this week at all?" And they haven't. And I think, school assemblies are the ideal time to readdress and keep delivering a message that this shouldn't be accepted.
We're talking about what's accepted and what's not accepted. Do you think there's enough emphasis on saying that bullies are the lowest form of life? Because, a lot of people, they kind of turn around and say, look, bullies, they're this, they're that, they're scum, they're this, they're that. But actually, how many parents would stand up and say, my child is a bully? And it's actually them that's doing the bullying. How much sort of, responsibility do you think a parent takes when their own child is a bully, for example?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even as a teacher, I've been in the situation where I've tried to confront, a parent about their child. And I've been told by, head teachers, etc., that I should obviously limit what I say to the parents, because some of the parents, they're quite aggressive themselves. So, obviously, like I said, this is a twofold situation. What the schools can do are limited, but, then there's what the parents can do. Are parents getting to know their children well enough in an age where social media is grooming their social norms? We've got children who are highly sexualized and clearly very aggressive. So are children really giving us a true sense of who they are? I think parents and teachers really need to help children be true about who they are. I think social media sometimes reveals a different side of a child that you didn't know existed.
That's very, very true. He's 11 years old, and he's already so advanced. I mean, when I was that age, no way was I anywhere near as advanced as him when it comes to technology and the things that kids can do nowadays. Definitely. Talking about sort of the advancement and things, Shalina, what is it like in Kuwait then? Because you've been teaching in Kuwait, and how does it differ in terms of bullying and their sort of role on bullying? How do they kind of deal with bullying over there to sort of schools here in the UK?
Bullying isn't something that comes up. I happen to have a 13-year-old son who came with me to the Middle East, and I've seen the pressure of social norms in the West compared to being in the Middle East. And he even said to me, he said, Mum, I can actually focus more on my studies. They have almost like a zero tolerance. Teachers are respected, and if children aren't, behaving, parents will discipline their children, and I think in a sense we've lost control and power over disciplining our children without feeling like we're being watched or criticised.
Because the zero tolerance thing, because if you go into a school, they always say, oh, we've got zero tolerance on bullying, we've got zero tolerance on bullying, we don't stand for it, but yet it's still going on.
Yeah, I mean, let's look at the reality. In some schools, if a child misbehaves, they'll get a sad face. They get one warning, second warning, and then they'll get, something. And the children kind of mock this. I've worked with different ages, whereas in the other schools, in the Middle East especially, the parents are called in the very same day. There is just, the parents also have to take responsibility. I remember the first time I was called in as a parent in the Middle East, where my son had to adapt. The school were like, this is not the behaviour that we have here, and if your son doesn't conform, then he's not allowed to come to the school, full stop. So I felt that pressure as a parent, to sit down and help my child adapt to that society.
We just had a comment here from Astrid, which says schools need to do more to stop bullying. Get the bullies at a young age. You work with a lot of the early years, a lot of the sort of younger children as well. Do you think there's any truth in that?
Yeah, I think there is. I think aggression. I think even talking about sexuality and knowing about guarding private parts. Like I said, the social norms and values in society have changed dramatically. And I think schools do need to step in there and not be explicit about, these things in terms of going into too much detail, but having enough in terms of talking more about compassion. For example, I know there's one school in Birmingham that's a Sikh-based school, and, they have some tenets, and they talk about compassion and, all these other tenets, that I think we've lost from humanity, So I think that's important, that we put that sense of humanitarianism back in our children instead of this selfish behaviour. I want, I get. Everything's very fast nowadays.
Yeah, and as a mother, you've spoken about, as a mother as well. I mean, how worried are you, when you're sending kids to school, how worried are you? Because this reality, it's on our doorstep, it's happening. This poor 11-year-old boy from Bradford took his own life, and we don't want this to happen to any other child.
Yeah, it's having that balance, isn't it? As a mother, at the end of the day, she did her best. Different people do their best to raise their children. And you can send your child into school being very innocent, but then you also have to send them to school with a sense of, okay, if someone steps on your foot, be ready to defend yourself to a limit that is respectable. So it is difficult. I think the pressure has gone up. Things have changed in Britain, even how we discipline children. But parents need to be educated. And I think if schools worked more with parents and parental involvement was increased, we'd go a lot further, So like I said, assemblies, and need to be called. And then parent meetings, so that what is being taught, with the school and from the parents is consistent. Both people are saying the same thing. They're singing the same song.
Sure. Fascinating talking to you, Shalina. Shalina, thank you so much for coming on. Really appreciate it. Take care.
All right, bye.
Bye-bye. There we go. That was Shalina Litt, who is a teacher from Birmingham, and that was her sort of views on bullying. So what do you think about this, though? If you've got kids, and, you must be, you must be doing you must be seeing what the social media that they're exposed to these days, and how can we really as a society keep our kids safe? What should be done really to tackle this? I just think, some of these things that are going